Welcome to Monday's Look North. Tonight, gearing up for a fight. Public anger over controversial plans which could see thousands of homes built in the countryside. Also tonight, more arrests at a fracking site in North Yorkshire as protests enter a third week. Concern that vulnerable people living in sheltered accommodation could be left homeless by changes to housing benefit. Not taking things lying down, the Cumbrian wrestler who's landed his dream job in the States. And elsewhere in sport, more than 60,000 golf fans take in the 4 days of a superb British Masters tournament in Northumberland. Good evening. It's a problem facing many of our councils, where to build new homes to start tackling the shortage of housing. But one suggestion in Darlington hasn't gone down well. In fact, campaigners say their communities will be swamped by new houses if a garden village is given the go-ahead. The Skirningham Garden Village would include more than 4,000 houses, with the developers saying it would give the local economy a boost. Well, Mark Denton is close to the plan development now and can bring us up to date. Mark.
Yes, I am, Jeff. This is Great Burden, just north of Darlington. As you can see, it's next to a commuter route. It could be next to something else as well, a garden village built just over there. And proof perhaps that there's no such thing in this world as a completely original idea, because back in the 19th century, they were talking about garden villages as a solution to the housing crisis. Sound familiar? Well, some people around here think that garden villages should be left very firmly in the history books. It began with the Victorians. As cities grew, they built new communities, garden villages. The aim, end urban sprawl. Bourneville came first, Welland Garden City later. But the idea of a garden village could be ready for a comeback. This is Great Burden, just north of Darlington. But there are plans for a new garden village of several thousand houses just next door.
The development will envelop them, so they'll become part of a bigger town, but people have moved there to become part of the countryside.
The developers behind the project say it'll provide an employment boost and help Darlington deliver its government housing target, 10,000 homes over 20 years.
Because they are large schemes, it enables us to put the education resources in, it enables us to put healthcare facilities in there early within the development, whereas small piecemeal developments don't generate the critical mass to support that level of investment.
The proposed garden village would be north of Darlington and would be for 4,500 homes, plus shops and other facilities. But it's not the first garden village proposal in our region. In Northumberland, near Ponteland, there's also a proposed garden village at Dissington. This would have 2,000 homes, although backed by councillors in March, Highways England are objecting. And in Cumbria, south of Carlisle, there's the St Cuthbert's Garden Village, proposal for 10,000 homes. Carlisle Council received £228,000 from the government to develop the plans. Darlington Council say the idea is at a very early stage, but they're not convinced the area needs that many new homes.
If we continually are driven down this route, by about 2032, there'll be more outstanding planning permissions in this borough than there are built houses. And that is a crazy situation to get into.
The plans near Darlington will be examined in more detail at a series of public consultation events starting next week. Mark Denton, BBC Look North, Darlington.
The government is being urged to think again about whether fracking is right for the country, just at a time when it's about to begin in North Yorkshire. It also comes as the Scottish Government says it'll announce a ban on the controversial technique. Well, those in favour say it's a massive opportunity and that the government shouldn't give in to what they call mob rule. Danny Hewson reports from Kirby Misperton in Rydale, where 2 more people were arrested today after protesting at the site.
Today's protest began before dawn. A police officer was injured trying to prevent this latest barricade. The 2 men arrested before specialist teams could begin the now familiar extraction. This is the 3rd week of protest outside the KM8 well site, the place where fracking is expected to get underway before the end of the year. But with Scotland reportedly on the cusp of banning the technique, there are calls for the government to think again about whether it's right for England.
Well, most of the countries in northwest Europe now are opposed to fracking in some sort of way, isolating England completely. It's England's being surrounded by countries that don't want the industry, and the Tories really need to change track.
One company convinced it is right is Ineos, one of the world's biggest chemical companies. They want to be a major player in any shale gas industry and have come to the Conservative Party conference to lobby MPs. But far from thinking the Conservatives are out of touch, they believe any government would be wrong to dismiss it.
Our business will exist regardless of who is in power, and so for any government they'll have to wrestle with the issues of energy provision, whether we bring that in from abroad or whether we source it from beneath our feet. The issue of energy provision within industry like ours doesn't go away.
Back across the Pennines, on what many believe is the front line, they see protest as the best way of bringing about change. But the local MP says tactics like lock-ons serve no purpose.
Well, I don't believe mob rule should really influence a process. I think peaceful protest, certainly. I think we should look at the science. It makes much more sense to produce gas than it does to import it. I think most people would agree with that. I think the conditions surrounding that, we've got to make sure she's done safely, in a way that doesn't damage the environment and that protects the landscape.
A stalemate certain to continue. Danny Hewson, BBC Look North, Kirby Misperton.
Well, more news now, and a 50-year-old woman has been released from police custody after being questioned over the death of a man in Hartlepool. Officers were called by ambulance crews to an address on Church Street in the town this morning, where the man was found dead inside. The death is no longer being treated as suspicious. Roads made of plastic are to be rolled out across Cumbria. It follows a successful trial with recycled waste plastic as part of the asphalt mix used to resurface roads, including the A7 in Carlisle. Cumbria County Council is among the first in the country to use this material for road resurfacing. A woman from Northumberland has won the BBC's Countryfile Young Farmer of the Year award. Vicky Furlong, who manages the Crowhall Estate farm near Barden Mill, was the only female finalist in the competition. She looks after 120 cattle and a herd of 700 breeding sheep. The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has used the Conservative Party conference in Manchester to unveil a £400 million spending package on transport improvements across the north. It includes work on rail links to the new HS2 high-speed line and 10 local road projects in the northeast. But critics say our region as a whole is still missing out compared to other parts of the country. Well, our political correspondent Luke Walton joins us from Manchester. Luke.
Well, Jeff, ever since George Osborne left the government, there have been claims his Northern Powerhouse project has run out of steam. So today his successor as Chancellor, Philip Hammond, tried to show that the project was still on track. He announced £300 million for Northern rail improvements, mostly focused on the North West and Yorkshire, and a further £100 million to be shared between 30 or so road projects, 10 of which will be in the North East. Business groups want the government to go further.
There's £100 million planned for road for a start, but then just the work that we're doing on one roundabout in the northeast costs almost that. So this amount isn't going to do a great deal. And then, as you rightly say, the £300 million for rail, which mostly seems to be about the Transpennine links. And whilst we need those, because we need to be able to get to Manchester, the big investments in the future around HS2, we really need to make sure that we're going to be connected to that.
Well, Labour say the cash is just a drop in the ocean that will do very little to narrow the north-south transport divide. But today we also heard from the new Conservative mayor for Tees Valley, Ben Houchen. Now, he is something of a conference star here in Manchester because the Tories are very proud of his remarkable victory in what's seen as a traditional Labour area. He actually spoke on the platform introducing the Chancellor, speaking of an economic renaissance on Teesside. Now, afterwards, he spoke to me and told me that the new investment was an important stepping stone.
One thing we've got today from the Chancellor is a long-term dedication to Northern Powerhouse Rail. They're future-proofing HS2, which will mean the connections from HS2 means that while the government's keeping its options open, what it actually means is there is a real dedication and a drive to deliver HS3, Crossrail for North, but what I like to call it is Northern Powerhouse Rail.
Nothing, though, for the Tyne and Wear Metro, nothing for all these transport links you want on Teesside, at least on the face of it.
Well, I think the issue for the town and Weir is that they need to get their act into gear and get themselves a devolution deal and fall in behind politically to make sure they get the devolution offer that they actually want.
I suppose the problem for the Conservatives is that many of these promises are long-term commitments, and in the short term it faces some very serious issues. The party faces some very serious issues over its leadership, cabinet disunity and of course Brexit, and that's made some here in Manchester wonder if the party will actually be in power long enough to deliver on these promises. Jeff.
Indeed. Luke, thanks for that. Well, some big changes to housing benefit are on the way as the government tries to create what it believes will be a fairer and more affordable system. But housing associations in the North East are warning that vulnerable and elderly people, often those living in sheltered accommodation, could lose out and potentially be made homeless. David McMillan has been finding out more.
Richard is 84 and he lost his leg this year in an operation. After that, he was first moved into a care home before regaining his independence in a specially designed flat in Billingham. What's the advantage to living in this?
Oh, freedom. You've got mobility. When you come into the room, come into the flat, you can move about. It's fantastic.
Richard relies on housing benefit to pay his rent, but the government hopes to change the system so the level of benefits will be based on an average rental value of an area. Specialist housing like this, with support and communal living, is more expensive though than an average home. Critics say that will mean vulnerable pensioners could be priced out of their accommodation.
The main concern is the way the cuts are lit, those most vulnerable people in the borough. I'm hoping that they will look at it again because obviously they've been ill thought out and haven't looked at the consequences of what might happen.
So why is this happening? Well, the Conservatives say it's to create a fairer, more affordable benefit system.
The government wants to make it easier for people to come off benefits and get into work. And we need a fair system so that people who are in private housing and social housing don't have different amounts of rent to pay and housing benefit.
A green paper on the changes was due to be published in spring. It's now due in autumn. Housing associations say that's caused damaging uncertainty. The government says it shows they are listening. David McMillan, BBC Look North, Billingham.
The war of words over the Hexham Business Improvement District, or BID for short, has stepped up a notch. The scheme imposes a levy on traders in the town, but many of those businesses are opposed to it, and a sizable number have refused to pay. One businessman has told the BBC's Inside Out he's prepared to go to prison over it, as Chris Jackson reports.
Last August, bailiffs arrive at MacArthur Forest Services in Hexham. Gregor MacArthur had refused to pay the compulsory fee for the Hexham Business Improvement District, or BID.
We've got right to be in here now and to obviously look towards taking stuff if necessary.
The money's collected for the BID company by Northumberland County Council. It's taken more than 150 businesses, like Gregor's, to court for non-payment.
They wouldn't even leave the premises. They were going around threatening to ring low-loader companies to take away forklifts and even my new pickup.
For many like Gregor, it's become a point of principle. He paid the £495, but he won't pay the next bill, even if it means jail.
Unfortunately, I feel that strongly about being bullied around and being pushed around by these people that, yes, I'm prepared to go to prison, yes.
So why are feelings running so high? The Hexham BID, a private company, was established last year. It was set up after Northumberland County Council held a vote of businesses in the town. 153 voted yes, 79 voted no, but the turnout was low, only 36%. The yes vote means all businesses in the BID area of Hexham must pay up. But businesses like Hubbox say the vote was flawed.
Oh, she had 7 bid packs. We actually received 4 for what was relevant. So that was 3 went missing. Where they were, no idea. But we did receive 2 bid packs for other businesses.
So should the vote be held again?
Personally speaking, I think so.
Paul Robbie also says the council can't even tell the people running the BID which businesses are paying the fee.
They're unable to pass those on to the Hexham BID due to data protection.
So what does Northumberland County Council have to say?
You couldn't actually provide the BID with addresses for people who could vote.
I think it's an issue around
the legals around data protection. We're trying to overcome that through a data sharing agreement, and if we're successful, then we can provide that data. There was a legitimate ballot, there was 36% turnout, and there was 66% in favour. A number of businesses used a legitimate right to appeal to the Secretary of State. In his opinion, the bid was a valid one and didn't uphold that appeal from the businesses.
Chris Jackson, BBC Look North.
Interesting, and there's a lot more on tonight's Inside Out. It's 7:30 here on BBC One. Right now, though, it's about 6:45. It's time for Team Talk. And we're kicking off not with football, but with golf and the stars of the British Masters at Close House in Northumberland. They've clearly been watching Steve Harper hole a massive putt in the Pro-Am tournament. You enjoyed it, didn't you?
I did. Thanks for showing that. I'm pleased you didn't show the putt before that, but it was nice to make one.
But the whole event was fantastic. The local challenge was led not by Steve, but by this man, Hartlepool's Graham Storm, and this shows you what sort of form he was in. Eventually tied for fourth place. But even the best can misjudge their putting, Steve. Rory McIlroy.
That's a tough putt on 11. Easy to leave that short. I am not going to tell Rory McIlroy how to putt you.
Not at all. But this is the guy who won, Paul Dunn. And this is what happened. This is how you win things, by getting breaks like this.
It's the same hole that Rory was on, and when that happens, you know it's your day. To shoot 61, you know it's going to be something special.
Unbelievable. Bounced off the sprinkler, but this shows what he can really do. Just chipped in at the last.
Brilliant. Under pressure, he got 3 from there to win it. Does it in 1.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Superb tournament it was altogether. Right, now to the football. And there was a lot of love around St James's Park yesterday, mainly for the man who'd managed both Newcastle and Liverpool, as you'd expect. Rafa Benitez, still held in high esteem by the fans back on Merseyside. But before the game, there was a nice tribute to former Newcastle chairman Freddie Shepherd.
A fitting tribute to a man who bled black and white. He was black and white through and through. Great to see stars of the past there and his family as well aside, and then reverse it on you. So credit him, great strike.
Yeah, now, how much did Hosselu know about this one?
Well, I think, first of all, Shelvey, brilliant to see the pass and then to execute it as well. And he's missed a few recently, Hosselu. Yeah. So if you keep working hard, you get the break.
Just 1 point at home, you cannot be happy. But against a top side like Liverpool, I think that was creating so many chances in every game. And they had some chances today, but just 2 shots on.
So a point for Newcastle, and in the Championship, a point apiece for Middlesbrough and Sunderland, slightly more useful to the Wearsiders and the Teesiders. Just 1 point from the previous, 21 for the Black Cats, so this was all about trying to turn the tide, wasn't it?
Table doesn't make good reading, but this display proved this fight in the dressing room. Really good goal there to take the lead. The 2 youngsters combining well, but then they go behind. Again, a poor goal, but just the fight the fans will take away, that they stuck at it. Brilliant goal that puts them behind there as well.
Yes, just falls to him. But a lovely finish by McGeady, and this is the sort of spark they're looking for. What more back as well? So there is some hope.
That's
there.
A real bonus. That's an intelligent pass, clever first touch, and then just passes it into far corner.
Yeah, and then sprints halfway down the length of the field to celebrate. Middlesbrough giving away soft goals.
4 games in a row they've come from behind. This time they had to do it twice. They're just playing in patches in games, Middlesbrough. I think the problem for Gary Monk, and it's a good problem, is he's probably got too many options at the minute. And for me, I don't think he's quite worked out exactly what his best side is.
No, I think that's the sort of thing he was saying. But as you say, again, Middlesbrough showing resilience, just not quite getting the results that they were.
Just unfortunately, just a little bit sloppy defensively. Good forward run from Howson, and it's not quite happening from Middlesbrough, but I don't think they're far away.
As Gary Monk said, though, work in progress.
You know, you're coming in, it's like you're working from scratch, you know, and it takes time. We're working as fast and as quickly as possible, as hard as we can. The players are working just as hard as that as well. We used the last international break to really work on elements that we talked about before that international break that needed to do. I think you saw that improvement, but there's other things now that need to be improved, which is the next step, and we'll do that in this international break.
Well, in League Two, a welcome away win for Carlisle at Crawley in a game which finished with just 19 players on the pitch. But while it was 11 aside, the Blues made it count. It's at home where they can't win.
Brilliant ball in from Adams there, just asking to be put in, and then it all kicks off. Richie Bennett gets sent off, and then it all happens here.
Yes, ructions in the last minute that led to man aside being sent off. So yes,
2-3 game bans there, Jeff.
Finishing with 9. But this was one of the results of the day. So South Shields, last-minute winner to beat York City in the FA Cup. What an incredible result that was. And the upshot of it all as well, Steve, was that Gary Mills was sacked the next day as York manager, just a few months after winning the FA Trophy. And Martin Gray has taken over from leaving Darlington to join York City. And having knocked Darlington and now York out of the competition, South Shields reward is another corker at home to Hartlepool in the final qualifying round before the league teams step in. That looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, very
Certainly
good. Great
does look
time.
fair. Thanks so much, Stephen. See you next week.
Thank you.
Or the week after, international
after,
break.
yeah, week off.
Remember that. OK. Now, away from football, Whitehaven fell at the final hurdle, I think it was, in their attempt to win promotion to Rugby League's Championship, losing 10-6 to Barrow Raiders. And in Rugby Union's Premiership, where Newcastle Falcons' incredible start to the season continued with victory over London Irish. The bonus point win means the Falcons are second in the table, level on points with leaders Northampton, although it was a nervy finish to the Irish game, as Dawn Thewlis reports.
Last season saw the Falcons' highest league finish in more than a decade, but this season they've stepped it up a gear again. Man of the match won Pablo Cecino, sprinting through the Exiles midfield for the first of 4 Falcons tries. A minute later, a sublime move saw Veroniki Gonova grab their second, and he claimed their third from close range soon after. Will Walsh's second half effort meant the bonus point was in the bag, but Newcastle must learn to close games out when they're on top. Irish came back at them with some intensity, scoring 2 tries in 4 minutes and kept the pressure on to ensure an uncomfortable final 10. But the Falcons held on for their 4th win in 5 games, their best start to the Premiership since they won it 20 years ago. But in Rugby League there was no fairy tale ending for Whitehaven in the League One playoff final. It was close and tense, but Barrow just edged it with a 10-6 victory, so it's another season in League One for Whitehaven.
Indeed. Now, in other sport, there was a bronze medal for Stockton's Beth Bryan in the quadruple scull at the World Rowing Championships. But boxer Martin Ward from West Rainton in County Durham suffered a second-round stoppage as he fought for the European Super Bantamweight title in Hartlepool. And another defeat for Darlington's former world champion Stuart Hall by Paul Butler on Merseyside means the ex-roofer won't now have a shot at the WBA World Bantamweight title. And staying with sport in the ring, many of us have a passion in life. So when Egremont man Johnny Moss first caught a glimpse of wrestling on the TV at the age of 8, he was hooked. Men like Hulk Hogan and The Rock were his heroes in leotards and lycra, but as Mark McAlinden reports, for Johnny, the glamorous world of wrestling is now much more than just a hobby.
Collect every magazine, every video. I'd watch it constantly all the time. And my parents thought there was something wrong with me because I was absolutely obsessed just by the physicality of it, the drama, the theatrics, the spectacle. I do believe that there's something there for everybody.
And now it seems especially for Johnny. He's been headhunted to move to Orlando and really make wrestling his life.
Finally, I've landed my dream job. I'll be coaching the new stars of the WWE, really. All the up-and-comers, all the lads and lasses over there in Florida, the next generation of superstars. It'll be my job to teach them professional wrestling and what it's all about.
But West Cumbrian wrestlers needn't worry. One of Johnny's keenest pupils will step into his shoes.
It's a big responsibility, but like with Johnny's teaching, basically shadowing him for 3 years now, I think, yeah, I'm ready for it now.
Through a silver screen, it might look like all sequins and fake tans, choreographed confrontation. But up close, it's all spit, sweat and slams. No wonder Johnny says the sport's booming.
The scene in England is absolutely thriving. There's all sorts of work and all sorts of places to apply the craft and do what they love to do. I've got a show coming up next week in Whitehaven, which should be my last ever show. Very emotional night.
Mark McAlinden, BBC Look North. Egremont.
Ouch. I'm sure he did get up from that. Painful. Almost as painful as the weather, Paul.
Oh, it was blustery today, wasn't it, Jeff? Yeah, very strong winds. Take a look at these pictures from earlier today. This was Hunter's Moor, just close to the Look North studios here in Newcastle, where the trees were being blown about. And you probably noticed bits and pieces of trees all over the place today. It was a pretty blustery day, and undoubtedly autumn, now that the autumn colours are there. As we move on to tomorrow, well, let's have a look at the strength of those winds first of all. Newcastle Airport was the strongest place, 60 miles an hour, gusts there around about 9-10 o'clock this morning. Many other places exceeding 50 mile an hour. So a blustery old day. Tomorrow will be breezy, yes, but much less windy than today. It'll be a mostly dry day. Most of us will see some sunshine as well. Now, there are 1 or 2 showers around tonight, more especially in western areas, that become more isolated. They won't disappear completely from Cumbria, but many places east of the Pennines will be dry with clear spells. It's still breezy, the wind's easing slowly through the course of the night, and temperatures only just dipping into single figures, the overnight low around about 9 degrees Celsius. So tomorrow it's a mostly dry, bright day. Enough clouds for just the odd passing shower, but most places will miss them. Most places will stay dry with well-broken clouds, some blue skies, some sunshine. It's never going to feel that warm though. The temperatures through the afternoon will peak around about 13 or 14 Celsius in most places. 14 is 57 Fahrenheit. Add in that brisk westerly breeze and it will still feel on the chilly side, I think, if you're out and about. So that's the way it's looking for tomorrow. High pressure trying to build from the south, but this frontal system comes in from the west on Wednesday, brings us more rain for a time. That clears through to leave Thursday, a cold northwesterly with a few showers in it. It's Friday before the high finally starts to build in and quieten the weather down as we head towards the weekend. So tomorrow, most places dry and bright, if on the breezy side. Wednesday, a lot more cloud around, some patchy rain earlier in the day, becoming more widespread from the west later on. Temperatures again, 13 or 14 Celsius at best. Bright and breezy again on Thursday, just the odd passing shower. Friday, mostly dry, but temperatures in that northwesterly breeze still only making about 14 Celsius at best. Jeff.
Paul, thank you very much. You know what I did yesterday? Swept all the leaves from the street in front of our house.
Oh, you're very good.
That was a waste of time, wasn't it? Do it all again tomorrow. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.